all over. Okay, fine. According to the simple formula, if a person did not finish their ruach, if their person finished their nefesh, level 1 soul, and now wants level 2, according to the simple formula, they have to leave this world, have to die, and then they come back with their level 2. And the same thing works for level 3. They have to die and come back and get level 3. However, a person can do things in this world where they can complete their level 1 soul, their nefesh, and what will happen is they're waiting for their ruach and give it to me, and they can't get it because they'd have to die. So the spirit, the nefesh, a lower level of another soul, of a righteous soul in the Garden of Eden, will come and take the place of that person's ruach. Okay? So in other words, they are going to get this influx of this extra soul, this change, this unbelievable shift in their life for the better, and will guide them to do good things. Okay? That's where we basically left it off at. And then we talked a little bit about what kinds of souls can come in. Okay? And this is only for positive, okay, not for negative. Okay? The soul of the righteous that has passed away from this world, or maybe not, can come into that person's mind and influence them. You always have to think back, just 1 second, Anthony. You always have to think and contemplate, and it's a huge thing to think about. Where do our thoughts come from? Okay? Go on, Anthony, you have a question.
So usually it's somebody of the same soul root, or say a soul group, that would be doing that, like a tzaddik from their soul root.
Good question. No. The answer is it's not necessarily from the same soul root. Let's say if you came from the pinky toenail, the pinky toe, right, of this, let's say we'll look at it as we've done in previous classes. Look at it as in the image of a man, let's say, and that's like the one universal soul we're all kind of made from in terms of our root. Bottom line, there is only one root soul, okay? It branched out, as we've learned in previous classes, from one root soul to 3, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And then there's 12, 70, who went down to Egypt. And then who came out of Egypt was 600,000 root souls. That's the last root sections that we're, and then we're just like subdivisions of one of those 600,000. But anyways, going back to the primordial root, let's say you came from the pinky toe, right? Of left pinky toe, okay? So that's your root, right? But no, there's a way that you can actually get from someone else's in another part of the body, depending upon a mitzvah that you do. Remember the story that we did last week? The story was that this Rabbi Shmuel did a mitzvah of, he saw these people, they got robbed in the middle of the night, they didn't have any clothes, he gave them their clothes right off his back, right? Okay, so, and so that mitzvah that he did made it that obviously what happened was there was a connection to another righteous person who did the same mitzvah, was able to now come and impregnate this guy's mind, his neshama, to be a added influence for this person to do good. You understand?
Can you clarify once and for all? I was kind of wondering for many, many times we got together here. You're talking about, read books by Kaplan and many other books. So we're talking about Jewish soul. Now, if a Jewish person can reincarnate in a rock, then certainly he can reincarnate in a Gentile. Once he become a Gentile, then would Gentile reincarnate back and then they become animals, Gentiles? You touch a rock and you say, "What is that? A Jewish rock?"
Could be. It's a Jewish rock. Where's my bagel?
Clarify all of this.
There's a lot to clarify. Now we're only in the beginning stages.
Yes,
you're asking questions that are amazing. Okay, they're amazing questions, and I'd like to answer them, but it would deviate us off the topic. But I'll answer you just the short answer. Right. But we have to wait and be patient to get to the long answer. And a Gentile soul would be very much like, say, the root of where we come from. Okay, so there are, as we discovered when we were learning Sefer Tanya. Sefer Tanya said that there's basically four, we call them the 4 klipot. Klipot means a husk. okay? A shell, an outside element, a congealed formation of matter, okay? 4 klipot. So one was called klipas noga. That was more like the glow, okay? That's where the Jewish souls come from, okay? And all of the Gentile souls come from the other klipot, the other 4 really dark klipot, external. Let's look at it as, let's say, you have organs in your body. You have your body. You have a body, and your body is made up of different parts. Some organs are absolutely vital to the body. Some organs are not necessarily so vital. They're all important. We'd like them all, okay? But you have to understand there's inner organs, which we have, which help the body function. And then there's your external organs, more external. So in terms of, let's say, the Jewish souls, they're more the internal. Okay, they're vital to creation. They're vital to the function of creation. Okay, and then there's external. Okay, so we'll say that the Gentiles, the souls of the Gentiles, they come from the other 3 husks. Okay, and the other 3 husks, right? The other 3 husks, it's God's light is very concealed. It's not that there's not God's light in them. God's light is very, very concealed. It's very hard to really get a good grip on the light within that soul. So we're just working on the Jewish soul for right now. Okay?
All this makes sense if you don't talk about reincarnation. But if one can reincarnate into another and remain the same soul, that would,
we'll get to it. You're asking awesome questions, and you have to keep those questions, and we'll get to them. Okay? You're asking great questions. But like that, we're only on chapter 2. Okay?
You want to know everything in this one instant.
Okay, I invite you to order the book. You could read through it in one reading overnight, and then we can come back and discuss. Okay, let's go. We're on chapter 2, page 35, Ybor of righteous souls. Discussed here are various possibilities for acquiring an Ybor of a tzaddik, depending upon the level of rectification achieved by the nefesh. Okay, but this is not in its first Gilgul. We're all talking about, most of us are already reincarnated souls. We're all considered basically old souls. We've been here a few times. So this is not a first time. Sometimes it is possible, even in this late period of history, for the ruach, that means level 2, spirit, of a righteous tzaddik, even from one of the patriarchs, to come as an Ybor. That means it can come into the soul of a person as an Ybor, as an impregnation, a connection that you don't necessarily feel, except for maybe in the form of a still small voice in your head. Okay? The small influence in your head to do this, do that, do this. Okay?
So patriarch can come back and
Patriarchs, baby.
Wow.
It all depends upon the level of the mitzvot performed by the person. In other words, when you do a mitzvah, and like I tell this all the time, and God willing, Hashem, please, I really need to finish this book. Okay?
You will.
I need so much Shatat Shema. Baruch Hashem, I get to pray. An angel. What does that mean? It creates an angel. It means there's an energy that is created. When you think a thought, you know that. If you think of a happy thought, it makes you feel happy. If you think a depressing thought, it makes you feel depressed. Everybody knows that. And it works that way also in the words in words and in actions. Our actions create energies. These energies are other, okay? If you take a glass and you put oil in the and you take water and you put a bottle, you put water and oil in the bottle and you shake it all up, it gets mixed up, but eventually the oil will float on top. The oil will always go to where its family is, its soul family. Okay? So here obviously if a person does an action, that action is a certain energy. That energy knows how to connect in the different dimensions to other souls that do that same kind of energy. This is bizarre, folks. And they even say this, just to throw this out, I was going to save it for the end, but I always want to pull all the aces out of my sleeves first, okay? They say if you do the advice of a tzaddik, of let's say a righteous book, they always talk, a lot of the books specifically go into connecting to the tzaddik. And sometimes it drives me absolutely crazy because I can't, it's very hard for me to relate to. Because we want to connect to the Holy One, blessed be He. That's who our ultimate connection is with God, okay? But a lot of these texts, Rabbi Nachman, right, and other Hasidic texts speak about connecting to the tzaddik, the tzaddik. What do you mean connecting to the tzaddik? Now, there's lots of different explanations for that. Most people, if you go to the Breslovs, connecting to Rabbi Nachman, man. Okay, it's pure connection to Rabbi Nachman. And there's something not too bizarre in this, and what I'm going to share with you. What does it mean connecting to the tzaddik? It means when you follow their advice through their books, you read their books, and you go ahead and you integrate their information, their energy, and you follow their advice, then what happens? So then, that's Rabbi Nachman, that they say Rabbi Nachman, his biggest advice was you have to spend an hour a day doing hitbodedut. An hour a day going and opening day. That's like, what? I can't even do like 1 minute, okay? So, but they say if you do that, and I have done it in periods of time, and I do find something amazing happens. They say when you do that and you follow in the advice of the righteous tzaddik, of this tzaddik, so then what happens is you get an access, you'll get a plug-in, okay, to a certain frequency, a certain energy. And that we'll call it the frequency pattern of this tzaddik, okay? Look at it like nowadays, we have amazing technology at our fingertips that is so beyond what we could have possibly imagined 10 or 20 years ago, for sure 10 years ago. But a lot of times, things in the physical realm, when they would happen and when a rabbi would see it, they would tell in our oral law. When they showed the Chavetz Chaim a camera and a picture, a photo of a camera, he says, oh my gosh, I got it now. Now I can understand that chapter in Pirkei Avos that says every single one of your actions is recorded. He says, I got it. In other words, this picture is eternal. Even though that maybe you don't have a picture, I can understand the eternity of what we're doing. And he really grasped it, really deeply. In other words, the technology gave him an idea of something that we speak about, we've always had handed down in tradition, but never fully grasped. Okay? And now he goes, oh my gosh, when you see a picture, I can understand how this picture is eternal. When we see the internet, and you can go to any website, just to let you know, Klipas Noga is a mix of 3 klipot, it's all bad. So, when you go on the internet, of course you can go on unbelievable sites and access unbelievable classes in Torah and knowledge and unbelievable things, right? And then a person can also go to things which are detrimental and damaging for the soul. Okay? It's all there, right? The idea here is the same thing. It's a frequency. You can go ahead and plug in when you do the advice of a certain tzaddik. You plugged into a certain frequency, a certain energy, like tuning into a radio station or tuning into a TV station or whatever it is, a certain station. Obviously now then you're access to, the food. Okay, thank God for the food channel. Okay, not really. Okay, because they give you a slab of meat and donuts, and they go ahead and make something with that. I'm like, that's chopped, right? They do.
What
that.
if you build a house consisting entirely of Jewish rock, and then they all got reincarnated back into something? What is your house going to collapse? What's going to happen?
It has happened in the past. Houses.
Okay.
There was one huge. They have a story. This one tzaddik was walking. He was stuck. He was hot. He needed a place to rest. He goes right under this certain awning of this huge palace that was unoccupied, just to rest there for about like a half an hour. He leaves. As soon as he leaves, the whole thing crumbled. Fell up just like that, level. They go like, "What's the deal?" And they go, "Well, we understand that. Why? That this person, whoever had it in his mind to build this huge house, was only for that this person this is like 30 years ago he built it, so that this tzaddik will come and have a shade. Okay, so all the stones they got their elevation. Okay, it happens all the time. Okay, in any case, okay. Let's go on. It all depends upon the level of the mitzvot being performed by the person. If you do a mitzvah with a high vibration, a great sense of joy, a great sense of dedication, a complete intention that God's expression, his infinite expression, should be right now revealed to everybody. In other words, let's say you can elevate your thoughts to such a level where you're doing this mitzvah completely altruistic with the right reasons. You've made a connection in the other to an array of different tzaddikim, different channels, different frequencies. Some mitzvot have the power of tzaddik into an Ybor, whereas others can draw down the ruach of a tzaddik depending upon the mitzvah. That is kind of tricky. It is also possible for a person to receive the nefesh of one righteous person, and after that merit another nefesh, and even greater than the first. In other words, this guy's got two.
Oh, potential.
He's got two righteous souls in him. One is from the nefesh, and another's from a nefesh, but it happens to be that nefesh of that second one is greater than the first nefesh. In such a case, he will have his own nefesh. And then the nefesh, that's level 1 of the first righteous person, then that becomes the person's ruach, that's his level 2. And then the second, which is also a nefesh, but it's higher than that nefesh, then that becomes in place of his neshama. So in other words, he has three righteous, he has his own, and he has two other righteous souls within him. One is the place of his level 2, and the other is the place of his level 3. It's unbelievable. Don't think of it. It's kind of tight in here. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of space.
Now,
okay?
It's kind of neat,
Are those
though.
dead souls he's inheriting
Yes.
them from? Yeah.
Dead souls, righteous Garden of Eden, all of a sudden,
Not
listen,
dead.
there's two kinds of righteous people I've explained before. Shh, yes they are. It could be they're living. Yes, we'll get to that. They are alive. As a matter of fact, the righteous are more alive when they're dead. They have more influence after they're dead than when they were alive.
There's a lot
True.
of information.
The idea really here is, now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, so the idea really is unbelievable is that these there's two kinds of righteous. There's the kind of righteous guy I'm just going to make sure I'm going to do what's right for me, and he's very careful about himself and what he does. And he's very careful. He does every single mitzvah. He learns, and he's very meticulous about his actions. He's very careful about what he does. But he's not necessarily the outgoing type. Okay, he doesn't give up about anybody else. Sorry then. Okay, he's like very, he does care. Maybe he'll pray. Maybe. Okay, he'll pray for them. But
Doesn't do.
is it really in the heart? Is it really, really deeply in the heart that he's really, really moved to really help others? So this kind of righteous, that's one different kind of righteous person. The second kind is he's really deeply moved to help other people. This kind of righteous, after they die, they only want to help. They only want to come down here and be an influence. It's kind of bizarre when you think about it, because you really don't know beyond our dimension what is really going on in that multi-dimensional realm where all the tzaddikim are going they're looking around at everybody going, who can I get into next? Okay? This guy looks like pretty, workable, right? Maybe not. So maybe some tzaddikim going no, I can't swallow that dude. That dude, that's like rough beef jerky. That's too salty, right? Now, Rabbi Nachman happened to be an unbelievable tzaddik who can work with anybody. He could say, I can work with that and soften him up a bit and get in there. Okay? So that's why there's 40,000 plus people going, to maybe 60 this year. Or when I don't know how many thousands of people go to his grave on Rosh Hashanah. But then there's higher. What? It's in Ukraine. It's in Uman in the Ukraine. Should I mention the Ukraine? Is it a bad word?
Yeah.
Shouldn't mention it. Okay.
It's a
Bad place.
Why is it a
Okay.
bad word?
I'm just joking. Okay, let's go. Shh. Okay, fine. Thus, in one lifetime, I'm reading note 1. Thus, in one lifetime, he can merit a ruach and neshama, though not his own. Imagine the power of this person and what they can do. Okay. Or perhaps the nefesh will be perfected to the point that after already receiving the nefesh of a righteous person, he will merit the ruach of a second righteous person, even possibly the ruach of Avram Avinu. Now, I had a little difficulty with this text, okay? Because I don't understand what is this or perhaps. He's giving up different possibilities, and I don't see a difference of this possibility to the possibility he just mentioned. Okay? So I think in the Perush here from the Metoch Midrash, kind of like a complicated kind of issue that actually we can jump levels also. We can skip levels. We can achieve and move up to where we actually can jump up in our level to actually become the nefesh of these tzaddikim. Okay? So in other words, you lose your place in your pinky toenail and you move up to the ankle, to the knee, and higher up. Okay? You can climb, so to speak, in terms of the levels of our soul. Yeah.
Question, why is there such a concerted effort of knowing how the hierarchy is laid out?
You'll see there's not. Okay?
All various levels, but if everything's performing its function with God's will or whatever, then that should be the only thing that should be the matter, that it's no more nor less than what God's will is for that individual or person, not necessarily, it doesn't matter what level you're on.
Okay.
All that matters is you're performing the function of what was dictated or whatever by God's will.
Okay, so if I understand your question is simply you should be content with being the small left pinky toe?
No, just whatever it is, neither more, no more,
Okay,
no less.
so it is what it is,
Whether-
but however,
There is no-
wherever
you're gonna see we're gonna get a little taste here.
Well,
Okay?
all the time says like the person who's thankful with what they have the ticket to heaven.
That's Rabbi Nachman. I just gave a class yesterday. Rabbi Nachman says, since we're entering into Hanukkah, it's very important to really dig deep into the energy of gratitude now as we speak, okay? It's in our minds, okay? But the idea really is of digging into gratitude, because that gratitude, Rabbi Nachman says, is the of the next world when you are grateful during these days. It's a big thing to meditate in front of your Hanukkah candles. Yeah, okay, so I have a Facebook class, I think. I don't know if it came out good, but...
You talked about second night yet?
No, we'll get to that. Okay, so in any case...
Okay, it's just, in my opinion, that's kind of like totally like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We're not talking about looks. We're talking about something very spiritual. And a little bit into Anthony's question, because, the idea really here is from last week's parsha. Okay, it's a great midrash from Ruth, and it brings down with that if Reuven would have known what it wrote about him in the Torah about that he tried to save Joseph from getting thrown into known. He said, his exclamation was, after he saw it was written in the Torah that Reuben tried to save Joseph, Reuben would see that and he says, if I would have known that they were going to write that about me in the Torah, I would have put Joseph on my shoulders in front of everybody, said, you to you guys, and would have take him right to his father, brazenly, openly against all of the other brothers. And it says about Aaron says, if I would have known that when it said about me, when I went to go greet Moses after the burning bush, I went to go greet Moses because I knew that Moses was picked to be the leader to bring the Jewish people out of Egypt. If I would have known that they said about that was greeting him with joy, right? And there was a happiness in my heart because, I understand Aaron was number one. And now he was going to go be number two and Moshe was going to be number one. But Aaron was really solidly happy in his heart. There wasn't any jealousy whatsoever. He was totally happy. So, and it says that. He was totally happy. He says, if I would have seen what they were saying about me in the Torah, I would have come with a 15-piece orchestra. I would have come with bands, music, and dancing. I would have come with a much bigger expression. Okay? And then it said about Boaz. Boaz with Ruth. Boaz, saw this, this woman who was, one of the poor people taking the sheaves, the collections, right? She was one of the poor, and he saw her. He had compassion on her, and he gave her some cereal, right? Sugar smacks, right? I had some sugar smacks, right? So he says, and it says that in the Torah. He says, I would have saw that they wrote that praise about me in the Torah, about the sugar smacks. I would have slaughtered a cow and I would have done a barbecue steaks. I would have done fleischiks. Okay? I would have gone fleishik.
What's the difference that everybody knew the Torah before it was given?
Now this is a strange, you're right. Now there's a lot to talk about in this Chazal. I'm sorry to deviate off the topic, but okay? And the idea really is, of course, first of all, when these guys are exclaiming, I would have done much bigger, right? It's not that, oh, I would have bigger for myself. It's not for me. It's not for my aggrandizement. It's not for my publicity. It's not that at all. You have to really get this. Some people, they didn't come back. When I gave this chazal and I didn't give that final answer at the end, they didn't come back. I never saw them again because they're like, oh, these people are just so selfish. They just care about their own like publicity in the Torah. It's not that at all. The idea here is we want the biggest possible expression of righteousness to exist, the biggest possible expression of the Ein Sof to be revealed in this world. How big can you go? Okay? Nowadays, the Chazal just continued, says, we don't have any prophets that write down things. It used to be there was a prophet who would write down everybody's deeds. Really. A lot of books. Write down everybody. They would know what everybody's doing. Right? And the good things. Right? And nowadays we don't have that. But now who writes it? Eliyahu writes it and the Mashiach stamps it. In other words, all of our deeds are still being written.
So the scribe doesn't scribe it.
What?
The scribe doesn't write it.
No, Eliyahu writes it. There's a book. It's written. It's all up there. Just like every single one of your emails is saved in a server. Okay? And anyway, the point here is this, and answering what you said. When you fulfill and you're happy with your lot and your portion and you want to just have that fulfillment, there's always a more direction. Okay, that we're involved in fulfilling. We want more of God. We want more of that revelation here and now. So that's where we get the climbing part. It's a natural desire within our heart, within our souls, to want more. Even though we're on the left pinky toe, there's still that natural inclination for more of, and that is fulfilled by expanding, climbing. Okay. Anyway, so to get back into this, okay? Now, we had to say this, just to finish off this little paragraph here after note 1. Perhaps the nefesh will be perfected to the point that after already receiving the nefesh of a righteous person, he will merit the ruach of a second righteous person, evenly, possibly the ruach of Avraham Avinu. Here's where you get the what are you talking about, Rabbi? And that's why I said it, if you guys saw in the email that I said, okay? About, I don't know how I might have changed it a few times. Obviously what's going on here is when I described it, there's one universal soul, okay? And we'll look at it in the form of a human that has a head and there's arms and there's a torso. There is one universal soul. That means within us, and I always speak this out, within every single one of us, we have our own souls, but there's a potential, a sliver of everybody else's soul. There's a sliver there. Past, present, and future. There is a sliver of every single soul within us. That means there's a potential connect to Avraham Avinu. And I spoke about this last week when we say, and we bow down, and we say, Magen Avraham. In the first blessing of the silent prayer, we are connecting, we are igniting that Avraham Avinu gene within us that God is securing, that God protects. That means there's no one else in the world but you. Can you imagine now, all of a sudden, somebody stops in front of your house, all of a sudden these huge, let's say 7 SUVs, black SUVs, pop out in front of your house, right? They get out and they knock on your door and they go, you're wanted for this certain mission. We're the CIA, and we're not investigating you. But we need you. You're the only person who can do this. We need you to do this. You're the only person in the world. You're going, come on, man. I'm just a school teacher. No, with all of your background and everything that you were exposed to in terms of your whole life element and every single thing and all the people, you are the only person who can do this. Imagine you waking up every morning thinking that, and that's true.
For all of us.
For all of us. For all of us, we're the only. You have to look at yourself as Avraham Avinu. I'm the only one who can do this.
So that should answer your question about you can't do more. God, it's open. It's unlimited what you can do. You can be what you can become. God isn't limiting you.
Okay. All right. Go to the next wording. Thank you. Okay. Shh. It's about more of.
More
okay.
of. Not, yes.
This is the esoteric meaning of what they wrote in the Midrashim. I looked this up last night in a particular Midrash, right? Or there's also a Midrash Shmuel. It says there is no generation in which there is not someone like Abraham, And the actual text says there's no generation. They went through the exact wording again. There's no generation where there's not a Yitzchak. There's no generation where there's not a Yaakov. There's no generation where there's not a Moshe. And there's no generation where there's a Shmuel, etc. There's a Shmuel in every generation. There's a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation.
And it's Mashiach in every generation.
And there's a Mashiach. That's the big one.
When it says et cetera, who else is with?
All of them.
All of them. And it didn't go through the exact list. It went through Shmuel. I think it just ended at Shmuel, but then I forgot what the rest of it said. I didn't look at it this morning. The idea really here is what? There's a there's a Mashiach in every generation. You can connect to, okay? And you know, when we perform a mitzvah, you have no idea what we are igniting, we are opening ourselves up to, okay?
Good stuff, good stuff.
In other words, there are people in every generation who may actually have the nefesh or ruach of these great people from the past. And the issue is you really don't know who they are. Okay?
Why can't they identify themselves?
Oh, they can, and yet maybe they don't. There are 36 hidden righteous in every generation. There's actually 36 in Israel, and there's 36 abroad, outside of Israel.
Do they know
That means
that they're one of those 30?
I know the head of them does know who he is. I don't know if the rest of them do. Because I told you the story of the Schwarzer Wolf. Right? Schwarzer Wolf. Schwarz?
The rain?
No. Schwarzer Wolf was actually told by Rabbi Shlomo Karlbach about this couple who couldn't have any children. They were very very sad, very depressed. They went to the rabbi. The rabbi says, "There's no way. All the gates of heaven are closed. There's no way to get you children. You have to go to the head of. If you can get to the head of the Lamed Vav on the Shabbos and get a bracha from him on a Shabbos, you can get a bracha. Then he can open it up for you. The head of the Lamed Vav." And the rabbi went and said, "He's in your town. Maybe you know him. He's Schwarzer Wolf. Schwarzer Wolf, that obnoxious guy that everybody moved from him. Nobody says shalom to him." That guy, everybody, they walk across the street. He's walking down the street. They go and they move the other side of the street. They don't say hello to this guy. Nobody greets him. That guy's obnoxious. He's disgusting. Yeah, he's head of Lamed Vav. You go to him on Shabbos, they hide it real well. Real well. As soon as you think you're onto him, he'll do something and you're going to go, I don't think so. Trust me on that one, okay? The guy goes, Erev Shabbos, 3 minutes before Shabbos, he lives outside in the woods, Schwarzer Wolf, and he's going to play a trick that he has to stay by him for Shabbos. So he knocks on 3 minutes before candlelighting. I need a place, I'm stuck, I can't get back in time. The wife is there, she says, "You disgusting," wants to slam the door in his face, right? He puts his foot in the door, "Please, you got to help me." He sees the kids behind that are also obnoxious and disgusting, right? And he's like, "What the heck kind of family is this?" She's screaming obscenities at him. She's just blasting. She says, "Go in the barn, wait for my husband to come home." Right? He hears the husband coming from the forest because he's davening, he's praying, he's really holy. These guys are really holy. Yeah, they don't appear to us, but they're really holy. They're really holy, and they hide it real well.
They're really what?
They're really holy.
Oh,
Very holy people. They hide it very well. He comes in, he hears them come in. No, listen, I'll explain. They come in, he comes in the wife's house. He hears a little talking with his wife, and then all of a sudden he comes in, barn slams open shut, huge silhouette of a huge guy. He says, "You're here Shabbos. As soon as Shabbos is out, you leave. You step 1 foot in my house, I'll strangle you on the spot. I'll kill you." right? Don't step 1 foot in my house, right? So the guy's praying all of Shabbos. He understands exactly why they are like this. He understands. He says, when you see tzaddikim are like a cosmic mirror. They reflect to you back your own character flaws. It's a big one. It's one of the biggest ones. It's also in my book, chapter 2. Okay? Hashem, please. Okay. So he realizes that whatever he sees in this holy man is his own character flaw. So he's working on himself the entire night. He prays. Finally, Shalish Judas, it's the sun is setting. He's crying. He's pleading. He says, "How am I going to get the bracha?" Finally, he gets the subtlest tap on his shoulder. Turns around, it's Schwarzer Wolf, but he's like glowing with this unbelievable light. He looks like the high priest on Yom Kippur. Okay? And he says, "I want to invite you, my holy dear friend, into my house." Right? And you come and sit and have the Shalish Judas with me. He sits down. He comes in, first of all, and everything looks different now because he worked on himself. He sees the kids are all little holy high priests. And the wife is so exquisitely beautiful. When before she was like, terrorizing, terrible. Right? So now he sits and the Schwarzer Wolf gives him the blessing. He says, "Okay, you should have a blessing for a child on the condition that you name him Schwarzer Wolf." Now he didn't think that you don't name after when they're alive. Bekitzer, what happens, he got the bracha. He gets to shul the next day. Big commotion in shul. Someone dies. The Schwarzwolf dies. Nobody wants to go to the funeral. Right? He bangs on the bima. He says, you guys idiots. You guys, this guy was the head of the 36. And you guys wouldn't even say hello to this guy on the street. You bums. Now get out there and go to his levaya. Okay? He had a kid, but how do I know whether this is true? Because there was the Belzer Rebbe was giving a tish in 1948 in Tel Aviv. The way that the Rebbe gives a tish is people come to him, each one individual comes to him, and he makes a little achayim, he asks them their name, they're escorting this very old man, two people are helping this very old man, and he says, what's your name? And the old man says, my name is Schwarzwolf. He says, are you maybe a grandson or a great-grandson of the Schwarzwolf that was head of the 36 righteous? And the man goes, Rebbe, you know the story? He says, yes, but I'm not going to tell it. You are going to tell the story right now. Everybody's got to hear this story. I'm saying it's real fast, folks, okay? So they put him on the table, and Shlomo Carlebach knew somebody who was there who heard the story from this very elderly gentleman. He said the story because he was from a blessing from the head of the 36. Okay? So and then of course when Shlomo Carlebach told this story, somebody raised their hand and says, I'm a Cheder Rebbe, I teach in a school, and there's a kid in my class whose name is Schwarzwolf, and he's a grandson of that grandson. So that's where I can tell you that the 36, the head of them, they know who they are. If the rest of them know, I don't know. Okay? Anyways, okay, the idea really here is in every single generation there's a Moses. In every single generation there's a Mashiach. In every single generation that energy is there. Okay? The influence is there. In other words, there are people in every generation who may actually have the nefesh. Okay, we read that. Concerning all these details, there is no pen. Listen to this one. Concerning all these details, in other words, where these souls came from, what level are they on, what level are you on, what level do you need, all of that, the pen will not fail to record them in a book. In other words, there's no way that the pen can write down every detail of every soul, of every section of every soul, and every level and everything like that. It's too much to write down. Nevertheless, an understanding person will comprehend and make the necessary inferences on his own. Okay? In other words, there's a lot of details, too many details for each and every individual and how it works, okay? I think his wording word here was, okay, I thought I marked it, yeah. Which olam that the person comes from, which level does he merit to, the tzaddikim, and from which world the tzaddikim come from. There's lots of details. In summary, based upon the tikkun and purification of the deeds of a person's nefesh, it can even merit a neshama from the earliest generations, including the most elevated of all, and it can happen even in this generation of ours. Okay? Furthermore, it is exactly the same when a nefesh and ruach reincarnate together and become rectified, but are unable to acquire their neshama, that's level 3 soul, without first dying and reincarnating. They can receive, while still alive, either the nefesh, ruach, or neshama of a righteous tzaddik as an Ybor, and it will act as their neshama. All the details that were described in the case of the nefesh alone, that has completed its tikkun, will apply here also. In other words, in different levels it also occurs. Okay? Now, on occasion, it can also happen that all 3 levels of soul reincarnated together and became rectified, Baruch Hashem. Then, the nefesh or ruach of a righteous tzaddik may impregnate him as an Ybor. Okay? In other words, they got all 3 levels of soul. Amazing. But yet still, there's always more. We can never be satisfied. Okay? In a holy sense. Okay? You can't be, we have to be content on one side of the coin. You have to be grateful for everything that God gives you. But there's always the other side of the coin, which is more. Okay? Yeah.
It says the nefesh and ruach of a righteous person can be an Ybor. Why not a neshama?
He already got all 3.
Oh.
This person got 3 levels of soul, reincarnated together, became rectified. In other words, he completed his nefesh, ruach, and neshama.
Right.
And now he's like waiting basically to die. Well, that's not a good thing. There's more to do. There's more to do. And this is where a person has to always be open and create a person has to always be open and create a new mission. More expression of Ein Sof in this world.
I still don't
When a person
understand.
makes you a delicious dessert, not a tuna casserole, okay?
Casserole's good.
For you, baby.
Depends
Okay.
on what you put in it.
Oh, it doesn't matter, okay? For me, okay? But somebody makes you a delicious mugu chocolate pie, and they give you a sliver of it, and you taste it and you go, wow, this is so good. Thank you so much. Can I have some more? Okay? Some more, okay? So the idea really is, yes, I'm grateful for this chocolate mugu pie, and I would like some more. So you see how both of them go together, okay? Yeah.
I had a nurse who was the nastiest person in the world.
Oh, that's everyone.
Thank you for sharing.
Best chocolate cake. You know, it's fun. No, but that still doesn't answer why, if somebody's completed his neshama, why can't a neshama from a righteous person enter?
It is. That's what he's saying.
Oh, but I thought it just said just the nefesh ruach.
No, so here, again, on occasion it can also happen that all three levels of soul reincarnated together and became rectified. In other words, a person has completed all three levels in his lifetime. He's 25 years old. He wants more. He wants more. So what happens then? Then the nefesh or ruach of a righteous tzaddik may impregnate him as an Ybor. In other words, there's more. There's additional. When he leaves this world, he will ascend to the same level as the righteous tzaddik that came to him as an Ybor. So in other words, the guy has shifted his root position and acquired himself a new root in a higher place. Only for the sake of more expression of God's infinite light. Okay? How much can you reflect God's infinite light in this world? Okay? So that is a question that should not be answered because, of course, the answer is it's infinite. Okay? So in the world to come, they will actually be on the same level. Now, here we go. Although his own soul was not actually on the same level as that of the righteous tzaddik, he is now forever, so you can't ascend. The ladder, Jacob's ladder, you can't ascend. Okay? This is the esoteric meaning of what is written in the introduction to the Zohar, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai fell on his face. He said that in that world, the world to come, both he and Rav Hamanun Saba would be shining together. And this is what I told you last week. I shared with you the idea of chavrusas in the next world. Chavrusa means study partner, meaning pair. There are connections made. I don't know if it's about everybody. From here we see the indication of the study partner, meaning somebody who does the same energy, frequency, resonance level as you. And there was once the story, I said last week, the story about the guy who was just a big fat guy eating all day. And the Baal Shem Tov says, what's with you? How are you and me together? And the guy says, well, I have a level of Mesiras Nefesh, would you call it sacrifice? I eat for the sake of sacrificing. Okay, because for the sake of the Jewish people, for the sake of fighting the enemies, and if they kill me, they throw me in a fire, I'm going to be a big fire. So there's another story where actually the Baal Shem Tov asked Achia Hashiloni, his spirit guide. He says, I want to know about observance of Shabbos. Where's my Shabbos observance in the next world? So I'm going to tell you only half the story. I'm not going to tell you the other half. So he wanted to say, okay, where's the shining light in the Garden of Eden about my Shabbos? So he took him, of course, to these unbelievable palaces of light, and he showed him two chairs, of course. And he says, this is your chair, and this is your buddy that you have to go and find. Great. Another mission. He lets the horses go, and they're on their rein, takes them to some strange house, completely non-Jewish neighborhood. In front of the house, he knocks on the door. He says, I would like to stay by you for the weekend. Didn't even recognize the person as Jewish at all. As a matter of fact, it seemed like he was not Jewish. The Baal Shem Tov was having the absolute worst Shabbos of his life. Friday night, he expected some kind of lofty prayers. Nothing, diddly squat. It's always like that. It's always the Twilight Zone, right? It's always like, like what's with this guy? No prayers, no nothing, not even kosher. He had to have his own food. I don't know about that food. The whole next day, nothing, no prayers, no nothing. Finally, what happens is it got even worse on a Shabbos afternoon. Well, all of a sudden, he opens his doors, and all of the neighborhood guests come in, and they're smoking cigars and drinking wine and having a good time. And he's like, he couldn't wait. Shabbos to end, he's like, I'm out of here. I'm clueless. As soon as he gets into the carriage, the guy, his host, says to him, "Listen, I was born Jewish. But in order for my parents to preserve me, right, they had to put me away to a convent, right, to be raised by non-Jews my whole life, rest of my life. I really don't remember anything about my Judaism at all. I remember nothing about being Jewish, but except for one thing, I remembered that my parents, the memory that I do have, the only memory that I have, is about that my parents would have people come over, and so the Baal Shem Tov, he tried to open his mouth and saying, there's more to Shabbos observance than just having people over and smoke cigars. Okay, there's challahs, there's kiddush, there's lighting candles. He couldn't. He felt God, the heavens closed his mouth. Thank you very much. He got in his wagon and drove away, and he understood that this person, when he opened his doors, because that was his level of Shabbos observance, and it was with the most deepest places of his heart, how he was expressing that Shabbos observance. That was his portion in the next world, deep in the heart. Even though it was meant to be that this person didn't know anything. You don't know what we're here doing. That's the bottom line. If you go through all of these chapters, you can always come out with a conclusion we don't know, right? But you're here for this little thing or this little thing. This person who is on the level of the Baal Shem Tov, in terms of his Shabbos observance, this is the only thing that this guy had to do. Was open his doors and have people come over. That was it. Okay? Anyways, okay, so what are we at time-wise? Okay, a few more minutes, okay? Section 5. The reason, why do these righteous people come in? There are two purposes for the Ybor of a tzaddik, and concerning one of them, the tzaddik can increase his own reward even while he cannot suffer any more additional punishments. This is interesting. Ybor, this impregnation, occurs for two reasons. First, through the Ybor of the righteous, the nefesh of a person can become rectified to the level of the nefesh of the righteous tzaddik. In other words, the influence that comes into the mind from this soul, this other dimensional soul, actually helps to correct, to fix the nefesh. Whoa, Baruch Hashem. Okay? In the world to come, he will ascend to that level, since the righteous tzaddik will have helped him to add mitzvot and holiness to his life. The reason serves the host person himself. Okay? And then there's the second reason. The second reason is for the sake of the righteous tzaddik, who was the Ybor, this holy soul, hanging out in Gan Eden, waiting for some person to do a mitzvah that he can come and help. But also, by helping the other person to perform mitzvot and rectification, he gains a portion in them as well. And this is, okay, so in other words, those mitzvot that he helped that person to do, he gets a portion in that as well. It's not that he's seeking for more merits for his own little bank account. Once again, these righteous people are only seeking one thing, and because they're very sincere. They are totally altruistic. They don't think about themselves and their little merits, and they're not collecting rubber stamps, wisdom stamps, okay? They are interested in a greater expression of God's glory, okay? So therefore, the more merits that can be accrued, the greater the expression. That's how it works, okay? And this is the esoteric meaning of what the sages wrote. Great are the righteous people, for even in death, they merit children, okay? That means they teach more after they pass away. When they teach, even after they pass away, right? Whoever they teach becomes their children. We know that specifically by Moses, who taught the sons of Aaron, they became his children. The verse accrues it to him that he raised them because he taught them Torah. When you teach somebody Torah, it's like you give birth to them. Okay? In other words, when they cause the person to increase his merit, they become like fathers who guide and help. So the host is the cause for the merit of the tzaddik. So the host actually, my favorite, Tonto calls me all the time. Want to wish me a happy Hanukkah, okay? So the host is actually causing or helping this tzaddik to accrue more greater light in order to increase the merits of this tzaddik, in order to increase merits, in order to increase a greater expression of God's light in this world. So they're actually, by receiving this holy soul, they're actually giving as well, okay? Which helps their soul in turn, because we're here to give, okay? So you can have a receiving on the condition that you're actually giving through your receiving, okay? The righteous tzaddik who has entered as an Ybor is like a spiritual internal navigation system. Isn't that great? So now you have GPS.
Wow.
Now we can understand a spiritual GPS. Okay? Baruch Hashem. That's why they created Google Maps. Okay? Only that you can understand the spiritual GPS. For the person who's the host. For this service, the tzaddik will also receive reward through the mitzvot he is helping the person to perform and the holiness he is helping to increase. Okay, a little bit more. The righteous soul which enters a person and assists him during his life as an Ybor is not as a Gilgul. Okay? It's not a full Gilgul. A full Gilgul is the person dies and comes back. This is while they're alive. And the quote is, easily attains reward and is distant from loss. This is an interesting idea, okay? This is okay, skip the note. If the host person does a mitzvah, the righteous soul receives reward. And this is the esoteric meaning of the sod of what is written in paradise. A righteous person receives his reward and the reward of his friend. In other words, whatever he did in his lifetime is his own reward, and the reward of his friend, his buddy, is a person who he was merited to be an Ybor to help influence that person in their life. Okay? Understand this deep sod, this deep secret well, although it is not the time to discuss it at length now. The righteous person receives the reward for having performed the mitzvot during his own lifetime, and for those he helps his friend perform while an Ybor inside of him. On the other hand, if the host person does evil, the righteous soul will not suffer any punishment. How do you like that, right? Or loss, since he only came to help him, not to cause him any evil. I mean, there's no diminishing on the right. What the language here is, right?
God gives us so much. It's amazing.
1 second. Okay, karov l'schar v'rachok lehefsed, right? Close to reward and distant from any loss. In other words, there's no loss here. Why? Okay. Thus, the righteous tzaddik easily attains reward because of his assistance in the performance of mitzvot. At the same time, he is distant from loss because he will not suffer any detriment or pain from the sins of the host, and he will not need to participate in the host's sufferings. Okay? No loss. Okay? What an investment. Okay? On the contrary, if this person negates what he rectified, then the righteous soul will leave him. I think that I've discussed this before. Okay? So in other words, the person can blow it, and then that Ybor, that holy righteous soul that was helping him, his guardian angel, takes off. Okay? If the host falls backwards so far that he negates the good that he had done, that he merited help him to the Ybor of a tzaddik, then the soul of that tzaddik that became an Ybor will leave him. Okay, we'll stop here. Okay? Any questions? Too many.
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
You still say that a righteous person can send his